Peter Cooter, is on the western side of Aberdeen City in Scotland. Although officially part of Aberdeen City, it has its own unique village identity. The North Deeside Road runs through the village and connects it with the city and the countryside. The village has a number of shops, pubs, a garage, a library and church. The Cooter and Bloom organisation works to enhance the beauty of the village.
Cooter and Bloom works within the community of Cooter, and it's our aim to improve the environment in many ways. So we plant along the North Deeside Road, which are basically municipal planting. We have this community orchard which has apples and strawberries, and people are welcome to come here. We've just recently planted over 500 naturalised bulbs. We also have a memorial garden for a girl called Zoe Skeen who was killed a few years ago. And we have behind the GP surgery, we also have the Elizabeth Park, which is a naturalised area, so very busy. Our aim really is to improve the environment, but we work very closely with the community too. I think it's been going over 20 years. I have been in the organisation for 15, and I think Eric, who is the chair, I think he probably began it a few years before. So it's been going for a while.
It started when it became clear that the City Council was no longer able or willing to maintain a high level of floral development and use of flowers in, let's say, in suburban areas. It's always been strong in the centre, but I think there was a slow retrenchment from the outskirts. And we noticed this, thought we could do something to enhance things, and that's where it started from. Structurally speaking, each year we have an annual get-together, an annual general meeting in fact, and these appointments are made for chair, deputy chair, secretary and treasurer. And I've been the chair for, well, basically since it started, which means it's probably about time to change.
Since it started, Cooter and Bloom has undertaken numerous projects within the community. One of the most successful being the Memorial Orchard.
Personally, I think the orchard is a terrific achievement, which Eric masterminded. I think it was bought from the housing development. I think it just was, and the idea that you can have trees that bear fruit and beds that give strawberries, and that people have free access to them, I think is pretty wonderful, don't you?
The orchard was considered in origin to be a community memorial orchard, and I notice now that more recently some people have actually been putting little poppies at it as we get nearer to Remembrance Time. What we do is we prune, along with the volunteers at the time of the launch of that particular project, we planted the trees and the shrubs, of course, the fruit bushes and so on. More recently, the project that the Scouts helped us with was putting in some nice shrubs to add a bit of colour, not productive colour in the sense of like a fruit tree, but more just a decorative colour. They come to us from time to time and ask us if we want to, if we have a job for them. Other times they may come up with an idea. The kind of thing that they can do relatively easily is sowing seeds, wildflower seeds, maybe, planting bulbs, yeah, sometimes. We do actually lead on at least one litter pick per year, and that's another good example where the youth groups can become involved and usually do.
The organisation is fortunate to have space at a local farm to store and maintain some of their plants throughout the year.
The main thing is a raised bed, which we use in order to sustain or replant plants that have been used perhaps over the winter and could be reused again. Polyanthus is the best example of that. Sometimes a few herbaceous ones as well. But it's also useful, as you might be able to see from the background behind me, for storing our stock, because it's not as if most of us who are the members have any space to hold on to things that we might need. So it's a very convenient meeting place, it's a convenient place for keeping some plants, it's a very convenient place for actually making sure that we've got a stock of what we need to draw from, or basically put away out of the way until we can dispose of it, things that are no longer needed. Because of as regards what we planted, there's, apart from bulbs, the main plants are usually polyanthus, pansies, that sort of plant, to give a nice splash of colour in the spring through into the summer planting. So these are the ones that we went for. This year they were delivered very late. Presumably COVID had some part to play in that, I don't know. And we had a bit of a misfortune with them. They didn't tell me, although I knew they were going to be coming, but I didn't know exactly when. And when I went down, I discovered to my surprise that the pansies, of which were probably the main plant we were going to be putting in, had been eaten. You might say, well, wait a minute, who eats pansies? Well, I don't know, but it's either rabbits or deer, and they'd eaten the flowers off of all the pansies. Fortunately, we had some violas, which are a much more modest plant. The local flora and fauna around about there don't seem to like violas, but they do like pansies.
It's our aim to move more to evergreen planting because it's more environmentally friendly. But people really like, or what I call municipal planting, they really like the begonias and the annuals that come up. So we do a balance of both of them. But obviously, if you're going to be environmentally friendly, then you really should be planting evergreens, which we are moving towards.
For Cooter and Bloom, this year has been different because of the COVID-19 restrictions and changes were made to their normal operations.
The main thing is the simple inability of us to get together in a room and hammer out what we're going to do, who's going to do it and when. It's compelled us really to have to be a little bit more directive on the matter, because some of our members are quite elderly, and communication, in fact most of us are, and communication has, by the modern technologies, has proved to be a little difficult. We have managed to have a couple of meetings by the famous Zoom, and otherwise just by exchange of emails and informal discussions with our members. And certainly didn't prevent us from undertaking the normal clearing and planting duties this autumn, or indeed the planting for the summer. The volunteers, the steadfast ones we can rely on, are the ones that are the members of our committee. And they do a large percentage of the work, mainly because they know exactly what to do and how to do it. Others can volunteer and can assist. This particular year we didn't ask for any volunteers because we didn't really require it, other than in relation to an activity which we knew would be completely safe from the COVID point of view. The City Council is actually quite keen to get groups planting bulbs, and we do get offers for around about the autumn for bulb planting. This year they were even more generous than usual. Sometimes it's maybe 1,000 bulbs. This time it was 3,000 bulbs.
Well, really, I would like to say that one of the problems for all volunteer organisations is that we're all old. We're all getting older, and younger people are busy working. So the idea that people join the community and help is very important to us. So we're always looking for someone who might just bring their expertise. It's not a huge amount of commitment, but my personal concern is that perhaps because we're so getting older, we may eventually peter out. So I hope that we don't. I think if you look at any organisation that's a charitable organisation, most people have to wait until they are retired from full-time work, because work is a very big commitment, and people very often nowadays, not only are they working, but they're bringing up a family at the same time. So to find time to do this would be a struggle. So I think if you look at any organisation, it's mostly people who are retired. And it gives back to us, as well as we give to them, but it gives back to us too.
The work Cooter and Bloom has done over the last decade or more can be seen throughout the village, and it has won awards in the Beautiful Scotland competition.
We're no longer going out for awards. It's a couple of years since we entered it, but we were very much encouraged by the City Council to take part in these Beautiful Scotland competitions, which take place all over Scotland for different categories of habitation, ranging from clachan to a large city. And we come into what's called the urban community category. We've entered that quite a few times, never got beyond silver gilt, and we're happy to rest on our laurels at that point. Probably the things that make most impact are at either end of the village, and there's one at the Bankery end which was quite elaborate. It involved coming up with a concept and getting a piece of sculpture devised. This is the St. Peter statue, which is meant to bring together various influences about the history of Peter Cooter. At the other end, there was nothing, and we've been through 2 generations of planters, large planters for the eastern end, that's the city end. I'm happy about and proud of both of these, but actually these are only part of what we do, and you see these for a glance when you come in at both ends, but there's a heck of a lot you see in between, which I'm equally proud of.
Peter Cooter is fortunate to have this dedicated group of people who are willing to give their time to enhance the village's beauty.
I think basically it's to enhance the whole community. It's very important to us that whilst we're doing the planting, people realise that it's for them and they are important to us.
My ultimate goal would be to make sure that Peter Cooter continues to undertake work of this kind. Not to see it fall back. Although I think that there is a level which realistically the community, both in terms of labour, resources and finance, is prepared to sustain. And I just like to think that Peter Cooter in Bloom will continue for many years with a flow of new members who are actually willing and interested to take part in it, to support those who have the experience and will probably want to be moving out of the limelight in time to come.
I think Cooter and Bloom does a lot for our community, and I love looking at the displays every year along North Deeside Road.
I think it's great. I'm impressed every year by the floral displays around the village, and I think it fairly brightens things up. And I think the people who do it are wonderful, because I know they're volunteers and give up their own time, but it's always very impressive, so I'm so glad that they do it.
I love it. I think it's delightful. I love going from place to place and having a look at all these things, and every year it changes. I think it's quite joyous. I hope everybody enjoys it.